Marescalchi. Laura Marescalchi is part of the research group on the Memorial Site project, together with Elena Pirazzoli, Guido Pisi, and together with Chiara Zevi and Daniele Gialla. Maria Laura is going to tell us more about the spatial moves before and after Villa Emma, and she will also tell us more about the encounters with people, because there are many protagonists in this story. Thank you, Maria Laura. The floor is yours. Well, first of all, I have to apologize because I had asked some people for some help for my presentation. So my presentation is going to be slightly out of focus in terms of visualization. So that may be considered as a current metaphor of today's Europe values. But I'll try to focus even more on crossroads, transits, and trips among countries. First of all, we need to consider that the story of Villa Emma boys and girls started and developed within the Second World War context, and in particular in a time when the persecution against the Jews became a persecution against people. The first group started in Berlin in 1940 within a juvenile alliance, and Recha Freier does a lot for that. That movement started in the 30s, actually. But in the beginning, it had difficulties in hosting families for the children. Well, that happened, and that was the case until the start of the war. So people started being imprisoned, and the news about their disappearance started spreading. So mothers who have remained alone seem to be much more inclined to host children in need. So basically, we have a starting group from German and Austrian cities. So that was about a group of young boys and girls coming from urban contexts and to have a clear destination, which is Palestine. Are there technical issues with my presentation? I do apologize, but I'm not realizing if there are any. I do apologize for any technical problems. I hope to have a better visualization. Still, if it's better, I can move somewhere else. But I quite not clearly see what is being projected behind me. So just let me know if you need me to move. The first destination on the way to Palestine is Zagreb. In Zagreb, the first group seized the day under the lead of Joseph Indig as well. And Joseph Indig will play a key role later on. Shomer Atzair, leader of this group, takes full responsibility for this group, and he becomes a leader. And this is a Zionist movement based on socialist values, and it aims at providing theoretical and practical training to the future pioneers who were heading towards Palestine. So this group was animated by a clear educational ideal. But then the trip was stopped and interrupted because on April the 6th, 1941, Italian German troops invade Yugoslavia, so it's not possible to travel further. So the young boys and girls need to be somehow saved and rescued. So at this point, we have a very important protagonist coming into play. That is the International Rescue Jewish Networks, which will play a very important role during those years. So in the beginning, in Zagreb, there was a clear danger. As a consequence, adults just get in touch with some people in charge of these networks, and they have a first contact with Dalasem, who will play a key role. This is an Italian network that supports Jewish people who try to escape. We have a first group of 43 kids with 5 adult escorts, and they get authorization to get into Italian territory. Italian troops were occupying Slovenia. They get official authorization, and thanks to that visa, that is possible for that group to reach by train Ljubljana, and then from Ljubljana they reach the Lesneburger Castle. The group will stay there for 1 year, more or less, from July 1941 until July 1942. 1941 seems to be a quite crucial year. First of all, during this quite isolated situation, the group goes through some major things because Joseph Indyk can fully deploy its educational project, for instance. So the boys and girls are committed to study and work. The very first beginning of the Villa Emma library starts here. Democratic methodologies regulate the life of the group. In other words, the kids are empowered and educated to several forms of solidarity. During the course of that year, a community sees the day. This is very important because the group that is going to arrive in Nantola is not a quite confused group, not at all. It's a group of people that has already shared common life for 1 year, more or less. However, things keep happening, and the war is getting closer to the castle. The situation is getting more and more dangerous, and here the Dalasem intervention is very important because the group is settled somewhere else. So the group is already on Italian territory thanks to an official authorization. And so the group is moved to Villa Emma. At that time, Villa Emma was not habited, and so it was available. It was empty, an empty building. So the group arrives in Nantola. Nantola is a place of welcome. The group arrives on July the 17th, 1942. I had selected a couple of pictures showing the villa and the village too. The villa hosts some Jewish prisoners from Libya, but basically it is empty. There's even no furniture inside. So at the beginning, the group has to go regularly to the village, and this is exactly how the first relations and contacts are established with the locals. These contacts in the beginning are only eye contacts. Indig remembers that the population used to look at them with a lot of surprise from dusk till dawn. I chose Mr. Monreale and Don Beccari as key figures of that mediation, and also Jorg Boris, one of the main characters in the group who would have a special relation to Mr. Monreale. And I also selected 2 pictures of some boys and girls from the group, together with some boys and girls from Nonantola. So everything starts with eye contacts, then friendships see the day. In a previous conference, people talked about tense friendships between people from different walks of life with different experiences and backgrounds, but still finding similarities to draw on. What happens then in Villa Emma? Villa Emma somehow seems to continue this training work. Classes are organized, work is organized. Here seems to be much smoother than in Slovenia. For instance, the boys and girls can work as farmers with local farmers. By the way, Delism is doing a lot to make this cohabitation work. It also does its best to give everything the boys and girls need. In other words, Italian Jewish people want to show that they can cope with problems and difficulties. This task is extremely hard and heavy, but still Delism people want to make it. For instance, when it comes to transits, some key figures are brought to Nonantola. For instance, a carpenter that had been imprisoned, and it will teach his job to the boys. After the first months of stay, the Delism warehouse is moved to Nonantola. It was previously in Genoa. And together with these warehouse, Goffredo Pacifici comes to Nonantola. We have already heard his name today here at the conference. Because of that, the Villa Emma boys and girls can enjoy active solidarity. So they are helped and supported, and at the same time, they give the local community some help back in order to provide support to other imprisoned Jewish people in other parts of Italy. Villa Emma becomes literally a crossroad of intense relations. For instance, Indig and the other adults of the group have constant contact with international Zionist entities and other Jewish entities and players. Indig keeps on writing letters to Istanbul, Palestine, and Geneva. And this is also very important because thanks to this kind of contact, the group always has an idea what's happening all over the world. And this is going to be very important, especially when threats and dangers will come closer. Some people come physically to Nonantola, from Mario Finzi of Bologna to Zionist people from Florence, the people of Matilde Cassin. There's a rich exchange of people. There are many passageways, considering also the help and work carried out by Delism. But then there is also something else. It is about being discontinued. That is the information and communication flow from the families of these boys and girls? Well, some answers came when the boys and girls were in Slovenia. And if we exclude some boys and girls who had their parents being imprisoned in Italy, those who left their families of origin, just realize that those people are disappearing, swallowed by the Holocaust. This element is quite important within this context, and it comes up very clearly. The boys and girls stay in Villa for more than 1 year, and that period is remembered by everybody as a very calm and serene period. Unlike what happened in Slovenia and unlike what's going to happen later on in Switzerland, they are not living in a fully isolated way, but still these people can establish relations with local population also living in the outskirts. On the other hand, the previous and next experiences of the group will be marked by isolation. But then the conflict also plays a key role in the Villa Emma history. First of all, the conflict between Indig and the Dalism. So let's recap this relationship. So the Dalism is afraid of the relation to authorities and tries then to have quiet, constant control on the group. Umberto Iacchia, a director who seems to be the opposite of Indig, is an authoritative person but with almost no educational experience. And Indig arrives, and when he arrives, he wants to impose some rules like avoiding getting out without a permit. It is forbidden to pray. The day is made of clear times. And so Indig was probably used to different time management models. He feels not at ease. He feels uncomfortable. And he says, well, at the end of the day, these Italian Jews had been fascist until not long ago. And I can't find some common language with them. They are rich, wealthy. They played important roles in society in the past. They were close to the power. So Indig seems not to be able to live peacefully that period. He considers himself as being put aside, even though the boys and girls still consider him as quite popular. Well, things got even more complicated because on April 14, 1943, another arrival occurs. 33 boys and girls with 2 escorts come from Split. So the first group was very consistent and united because it spent previously 1 year together in Slovenia. On the contrary, these new boys and girls arriving are simply escaping danger. Many of them have no parents. Their average age is quite young. Here you can see a picture taken after the arrival of these split boys and girls. And there are many children among them, for instance. And there's a quite big issue provoked by the linguistic problem. And then the situation inside the villa gets more difficult. At the same time, we get to summer of 43 with the collapse of fascism. In spite of this arrival of new kids that has nothing to do with the Zionist roots of the initial group, well then Indig and other allies of the group decide to take back the dream of going to Palestine. So they think that the collapse of fascism may be a good opportunity to resume the trip. During that summer, Then the boys and girls are asked to join some farming works in the fields. So that seems to be a good moment, because the relations between the local people and Villa Emma boys and girls are getting more and more intense. In the meantime, there had been some sort of detachment of the director, who thought it was not possible to properly manage that situation. So Indig is quite satisfied in that period, because he saw the boys and girls working in the fields, and he said it really looked like a Shara. So there seems to be some hope to be able to resume the trip. But then on the evening of September the 8th, with the news of the armistice, everything seems to be over. The German occupation seems to be really imminent. And now the boys and girls are 73 together with 18 adults. So at that point in time, Nonantala starts playing a role as a place of trust and solidarity. Mr. Moriali and Don Beccari seem to be the two reference people, and they are contacted by the adults of the group. Don Beccari in particular responds by hiding a part of the group in the seminar and the other part at the local nuns' cloister. Others are hosted by local farmers or other key people in the village. So basically, they are going to be held in 30 hideaways. Not all of them have been detected. I avoided on purpose to put third pictures of the village, and simply put a map that was made according to the memories of one of the boys and girls. He said he was hosted in the old house of a woman who was a farmer and poet. So everything was retraced from that. Again, going back to the local population, it was animated by a very strong solidarity spirit. That was the first sign of civil resistance. And I think you can really recall what Todorov says about the virtue of rescuers, and that rescuing virtue played a key role in saving and hiding the boys and girls. The whole population made a lot. There were several forms of help, some active help, but also some passive help. Some people kept silent. At the same time, the escape towards Switzerland is being prepared. Almost all of them prepared their documents. They had documents. So from September the 27th and October the 14th, they get prepared. Some of them go south to join the Allies, but most of them instead go to Switzerland, and they are welcomed with some problems. So some rescuing Jewish networks have to intervene in order to provide for them, because at that time Switzerland was not perceiving Jews as being threatened. In particular, two lag behind Goffredo Pacifici of the Dallasem, who had played a key role in crossing the border and making the group crossing the border. He decided to stay in Italy because he thought he could do much more. And Simon Papa was hospitalized not far from Pavolo, and then he was reported and imprisoned. Both are going to be deported to Auschwitz, where they will both die. Going back to crossing the border, Villa de Ben in Baxa is the last stop in the trip. but becomes a place of rescue and a place of waiting for the end of the war on May 29th, 45. Indig, with 46 boys and girls, will travel the last stretch of the trip towards Barcelona, and they will then get on board towards Haifa. So somehow the history of the boys and girls ends there, but Wilhelm history doesn't stop there, because there are other transits after the war. For some time, it becomes a shara, hosting some survivors from the camps that will stay there while waiting to leave for Palestine. Therefore, they will be trained and educated for life in the new land. Some people come back. Marco Shoki, who had been a very important figure in the group, a very skilled person with a lot of practical skills, a problem solver, let's say. And Edgar Boris are going to renew his friendship with Mr. Monreale. Well, a new chapter starts, the memorial chapter. Somehow that comes from far away, because the boys and girls who have built a new life, most of them in Israel, will acknowledge the received help. One of the first awards awarded by the Yad Vashem for writers among the nation will be given to these two mediators, Mr. Monreale and Don Beccari. In 1964, there was another transit, because Indy comes back to Nanantala to announce the award of these prize to Beccari and Monreale. So Mr. Monreale and Beccari will get the award, and they will travel to Israel to get it. From then on, memory started to dwindle somehow. I said that many rescuers were silent about their help and support. The resistance movement went through many hardships at the time. Memory was mostly kept at family level. Then there had been some isolated episodes, and then the Nanantale municipality took a decision in order to preserve this history. And that's why and how many families and people of those guys came to Nanantale. So then in 2004, the foundation was established, and today we are here from different walks of life, and we're here trying to give a place to this story, a place to be located in front of the former Villa Emma. Thank you very much.